I'm Zane.
My name's Megan.
Hi, my name is Azan, and today we have a special guest.
My name is Ang. Glad to be here.
And this is the Note to Self podcast. And today we'll be talking about finding your purpose. So, welcome back, guys. How was your guys' week?
I had a pretty relaxing week. Week or weekend? So week in general?
Let's start with the weekend.
My weekend was really relaxing. I stayed home, watched a couple shows, ate some good food, and that was it. It's a good weekend.
Nice. How about you, Megan?
Mine was not as great. I'm not gonna lie, I've been pretty stressed lately, both with school and just like life in general. I feel like life is always throwing different things at me and I never have a chance to rest. So I think right now I'm like trying to get into balance and finding time to have downtime, because that's something that's really hard for me because work is my escape a lot of times. So it's really hard, but it's something that I realized that I need to work on. And so that's something that I am working on right now.
That's great to hear. I'm glad that you have kind of allotted some time to kind of do that.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend, I went to my first rave. I thought that,
Ooh.
yeah. I thought that it was time for me to set some time for myself. So my cousins and I went to the Z rave, which was really cool.
Nice.
And then since then, my week has been kind of bland. How was your weekend, Hank?
My week's been good. Just I've been picking up projects here and there. I'm blessed, and I get the opportunity to pick and choose my projects now. So I get aligned the work with my jobs, and so it's been fun, exciting when you step into uncertainty and try to build something new that hasn't been built before. It's always fun.
That's really cool. And Ang, if you could just give a little brief introduction of who you are to the audience.
Yeah. So my name's Ang. Ang Ta. Ang pronounced like the last Airbender. I'm Vietnamese American, born in Oregon. So I'm Oregonian, but raised in California. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I practice family therapy, limited now because I do a lot of, I guess you could say, family therapy for organizations. So I treat organizations like their families that have dysfunction in them. So I do a lot of consulting work, trying to heal the pain within organizations, help create new infrastructure, and then I still stay in tune with working with youth, families, and children. And I do a lot of the responses to like crisis calls, whether it's like mass shootings, fires throughout California. I respond to those as well.
That's really cool. We're happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
So after my rave, I guess since like it felt like a brand new world or something like that, after I left, I kind of contemplated like what I was doing with my life. And I guess it kind of led me to the question of like, what's my purpose? Like why, or like, I guess what role should I be playing? I guess is a better way to phrase it. I don't know if you guys ever feel like that as well, but
I'm a very existential person. That's
Yeah.
like my whole life.
It's every minute.
It is. It's every waking hour of my existence is just, what am I doing here? And why do I feel like I'm doing it all wrong?
Honestly, I haven't really thought about it that much, so I don't really have an opinion or something to say because I haven't really thought about it that much, and I don't want to say anything now because it might not be true or might not be an accurate representation. So really, I don't have anything to say right now.
Fair.
I think that says it all. Like, and there's no right or wrong path when you're trying to explore your purpose or your why, right? Because you're living it. Plain and simple, you're living it. Whether through the rave, whether through existential crisis, having anxiety, or like finding balance, or just living life and saying, I haven't thought about it. Doesn't matter. You don't have to think about it. You're living it, right? And it's knowing your purpose is having the clarity. That's it. And a lot of that's done through reflection. Like you don't plan for it. 2020 is the best insight you have. When you look back, you're like, oh, that makes sense now, right? So there's a couple things out there that when people talk about finding your purpose, you're gonna find on LinkedIn like Ikigai, which is one of the one of the like models that they use to conceptualize how do I find my reason for being. That's ikigai is Japanese. It means reason for being. All right. And it was really taken by someone, and I believe it was Brazil, and they turned it into a business model. Like, how do I help someone find their reason for being or their purpose in this work?
That's
Whatever
so
that work.
interesting.
So, yeah, and yeah. Well, I'm gonna take it a step back. I'm gonna pull you guys back from that model. That model is, it gives a framework, right? But it doesn't give you a good foundation. Because in the end, when you're looking for what is your reason for being or your purpose, you're asking yourself, what is my ultimate why? Why am I doing what I do? Why is this important to me? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you explained it really well, actually. That was a really interesting, I guess, just I did not know there was such a tool that existed.
So let's before we even get into the tool, let's pull back the word why. Right? There's reasons. There's a lot of reasons why you might do something, right? And they fall into 4 domains. The first domain, because you enjoy it, right? Second domain, because you're confident, competent, or comfortable with it. You like it. You're good at it, right? You just do things. Like sometimes people ask you to do things because you're good at it. You may not even want to do it, right? And you guys have that experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You're gonna find that jobs will do that to you. You get hired to a job, you're good at something, they'll be like, do this. We want you to keep doing it, do it more because you're good at it. And you're like, I hate my job. But that's a why. Another reason why people do things is because it sustains them. It sustains your needs, whether it's physical needs, emotional needs, psychological, or spiritual. You go to temple, church, mosque, spiritual need. You work to get paid to pay your rent, a physical need, right? So the why you do something may be to meet some kind of need that you have. Then the last domain is a need that others have, right? To fulfill the need of others, whether it's your family, your friends, your community, or the world, right? And so that's how those domains, this is the undercurrent of the ikigai domains, which is passion. Comes from the Latin etymology, pati. It literally means to suffer. That you love something so much, you suffer for it, you suffer without it, right? It's what makes you happy. It's what makes you sad. It's what makes you long for it. The things that you love, the things that you hear about, it makes you sad or angry or joyful. It brings emotion to you, right? And then the things that you're good at, right? The comfort, the confidence, the competent. Those are the skills. Then you have the things that sustain you or pay you, right? Keeps you alive, keeps you going. And the last one is the things that others need. That's the ikigai 4 domains. Now, we all get into jobs and we do things, we have hobbies, we engage in activities that meet one of those needs. Now, when you meet 2 of those needs, right, you can enjoy it a little more. Like, if you love it and you're good at it, it's a hobby. If you love it and the world needs it, it's a mission. You might not get paid for it. You can volunteer all you want. If the world needs it or somebody else needs it and you get paid for it, that's a vocation. But you may not enjoy it, right? And if you get paid for it and you're good at it, that's a job. Like, I'm really good at Excel. I absolutely hate it. I'm a therapist, but they had me as an associate director because I was good at it. I was good at tracking numbers, getting contracts, and building the money up so other people can do the work that I loved doing, right? Because I knew the world needed it. I knew I was good at it. I got paid to do it, but I did not love the work itself. I loved the work that it allowed others to do, right? And so Ikigai, when they found this notion, I was like, how do you find your reason for being in the workplace? And when I thought about it, I was like, that's an impossible task that you're looking for one thing, one job that fulfills all 4 your needs. Why is it that we need one thing to fulfill our needs? Why can't it be that we have multiple things? Because we're multi-dimensional people.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many parts of our identity that we engage in, right? And you know this because depending on who you talk to, you change the way you speak. Whether it's a grandparent, a caregiver, a little kid, or a friend, you change the way you speak because those are multi-dimensions of ourselves, different identities that come out. And so I've been helping people dissect that and say, what are the things that you do that fulfill those needs? And that helps people derive meaning from it, right? I'll use my partner as an example. My partner always wanted to be a teacher. She is Filipino, so everyone who's Filipino now is laughing because they're like, you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, or a nurse. right? Not a teacher, right? Your parents would never want you to be a teacher. So she became a nurse. She's very good at it. She's a charge nurse, but she still loves teaching. And so for a while, she did not enjoy her job. Till I reframed it. I said, hey, as a charge nurse, what do? You also preceptor, meaning that you get grad students or students that are graduating or doing their clinical rotations, and you're training them. So you're technically teaching them, and you're educating the families. And when she saw those moments, she's like, oh, I am still doing what I love, just not as a teacher, right? I can teach but not be a teacher. Same thing. I love to cook. Doesn't mean I'm a chef, right?
Yeah.
So it's that when it gives you a way to look at different things that you're doing and finding meaning behind it and acknowledging why you do it. So she works to make all the money so she can do the things she loves, especially for the people we love, like our daughter, right? So she works hard, and that fulfills her job, right? She's good at it. She gets paid for it. The world needs it. She doesn't love it, but she loves her workers, and she loves the money she makes so she can spend more time with our daughter. You fulfill all four of your domains. It doesn't have to be one thing.
That's really cool. I love that outlook, especially how you explain how she loves teaching, but she's a nurse. But, like, you're kind of right. They do kind of intertwine.
Right? And then this is a fallacy that, for many of the college students, and most of you are probably listening to this, are that the world's going to tell you you're going to find this degree path, you're going to follow down this pathway, and you're going to get this kind of job. Mm-hmm. You saw this in the last 2 years. You can literally make any pathway up. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't have to follow a expected trajectory of what society tells you to meet your needs. Like people who get into tech, I do a lot of tech coaching, executive coaching. And with people in tech, they're like, yeah, I make a lot of money. I'm like, great, how many hours a week do you work? So half that. If you're working 80 hours and you're making X amount, half that. Because at a 40-hour week, you're actually making this much. The difference is you don't get time to do what you love because you're working 80 hours a week. So what is it you love? And they can't even answer me. What is it you want to do? I guess I want to travel. You traveled? How did it feel? It's empty. Mm-hmm. So, it's exploring with folks, and unfortunately, I tell people that I work with in tech, I said, if you work with me, you might quit your job. Or they might fire you because you're going to start putting boundaries up.
Really?
Yeah. But it's because it meets one or two of their needs, but it doesn't meet the rest. I'm like, how are you living so you're fulfilling all your needs?
That's something that's so hard to advocate for, too, sometimes. It can be really hard to navigate that with kind of just, like, the work culture we have of, like, just get it done, just get the paycheck, and if you're sick, work through it. If you're struggling, work through it. Like, we capitalize on everything, and then when we can't capitalize, we just say, get over it.
Yeah. I mean, it is a hard balance for a lot of families, too. Some people work 2 jobs. I worked 3 jobs to pay for the education I wasn't getting. I was skipping class to work on campus to pay for the class I should have been sitting in. I get it. And jobs have a way of, threatening you in very subtle ways, saying, hey, we can hire someone else. You're replaceable. Mm-hmm. If I'm so replaceable, why am I even here? Right? Because you're fulfilling your needs. So how do you fulfill that need of being sustained somewhere else where you're being honored? Right? You're going to see this all over LinkedIn where people say people just want appreciation and to be valued. They don't care. Like, I work for a nonprofit. They don't pay anything. So how is it that you get me to work in tough environments that are under-resourced with very low pay? You're meeting some other need. Mm-hmm. And you're appreciative of what I offer, and I feel valued. People will forego the raise if they can still make that living and pay rent. They'll give up the raise just to be valued and appreciated as a member, not to feel replaceable. I get a lot of tech people who will have that existential crisis where they realize they are completely replaceable. Mm-hmm. And they're like, whoa, they'll replace me next week. I'm like, yeah, so why don't you replace your time at work with vacation?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's a valid point.
So I actually have 4 questions I ask people regarding any of the domains, right? You have the domain of passion. You have the domain of compassion, the need. Compati means to suffer with, right? The need of the world.
I love that.
I know, it's such a like oxymoron in a way, you know,
Yeah.
because like you think that passion's like, as advertised at least, it's something you care strongly about, but then you saying that it kind of means suffering, like it makes sense, but it's quite shocking.
I mean, you care so much about it, it hurts you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? You know this. Like, have any of you had a long day, like a full school day with work, then go home and find something you love to do, and still find time to do it?
Yeah.
And your body's telling you go to sleep.
Play games
Every
all
day.
day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Passion. You suffer for it. You may emotionally not be suffering, but physically your body's like, I hate you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
In the same way, our bodies sometimes tell us, oh, you're tired, you're going to rest. And if you don't tune to that, your heart's saying, feel guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
You feel bad for this because you're letting that go by.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You suffer for it. And compassion is to suffer with people now, the need of everyone else. And then, of course, that last domain is the things that we get exploited for, the things we're good at. So here, I call these the 4 quests. Because quest and question have the same root
Yeah.
word. I also developed this for gamers.
Yes.
You know, it was a leadership module I was creating to develop leaders through creating role-playing characters or D&D characters. Except the
like
catch
that.
is the character's you,
Wow.
Man. Way to be
Wow.
right?
introspective behind it.
Right. And then everyone's like, okay, so what are your skills? I'm like, okay, we're gonna list your skills later, but let's look at what we say as strength, constitution, charisma, wisdom,
Yes.
intelligence. We're gonna replace that with the high 5 scores or your strength finder.
That's great.
Right? And then you're gonna look at the things that you love, their hobbies, which are your skill sets now.
So
Right?
tricky.
Your expertise and your masteries, right? But the 4 quests comes down to, as your D&D character, every character in roleplay has flaws and they have something they're searching for. An affinity, a quirk, right? Like, all my characters are bards or rogues, right? Arcane tricksters. For those who don't know this, look it up. I'm not going to explain it to you. Look it up, it's worth it. Right? Watch Critical Role.
Yes.
Right? And you'll get a good understanding. But, you know, all my characters have this affinity for, like, gold or treasure, in which they just give away anyways. They just like obtaining it and giving it away. Which causes problems because they're also like looters. So every chance we get in roleplay, my guys are always like, oh, I can loot. Everyone else is battling and my guy's over digging through the chest. Right? It emulates our lives. Where everybody else is like, I want to rush and do this task. I'm like, I'm going to take my time and try to find the treasure in things. And this treasure is symbolic. It doesn't have to be physical for me. Treasure for me is finding value in things. Like slowing down and then valuing the moment, enjoying it. And that's how I operate in life. I'm like, oh, cool, you're in a rush, huh? Better safe and late than never. And I'm just like, I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna enjoy the car ride with you. Yes, we're late, but you know we're already late, so what does it matter?
I wish I could be like that.
Hey, I used to be type A. Like I had a plan for A, B, and C, and when A, B, and C failed, I had a plan D. Right? I would wait outside in the parking lot for 45 minutes just to be on time. You know?
Yeah.
And somewhere along, I'm like, what am I on time for? Right? So let's get back to the 4 quests. Any domain you're looking at, whether it's getting a job to sustain you, doing something you love, right? You're like, oh, I love this, and I'm just like, great. Now this is where balance comes in. You have to evaluate your choices. So the 4 questions we ask, or the 4 quests are, what purpose or what does it achieve? What is it achieving for you? Well, I'm making money to pay rent. Or I need me time so I can check out, right? That it achieves something. I need a rave. I need focus. I mean, it achieves something. It's for you. The second one, what meaning or value does it have to you? What is important about it? Right? The third one, the way it is, does it make you happy or does it satisfy something? Do you feel satisfied afterwards? And the fourth one, the hardest one, the way it is, do you really want to do it? Do you want to continue it? Will it sustain you? Right? Now, the trick is, or the catch is, you're supposed to say yes to at least 3 of those questions. Right? If you say yes to 3 of those questions, think about it. I'm working at Burger King. Does it achieve something? Yes, I pay my bills. Is it meaningful? Not really. But it can be. I can gain a lot of work experience. I still have Taco Bell and Olive Garden on my resume, and I don't need it. Like, I have it on there because that's the first place I learned to work with people. And I tell all my interviewers that, right? The way it is, does it make me happy? It can. Like, if I enjoy my workplace, I enjoy my employers and employees and my staff, yeah, I'm happy. But if I don't, maybe I can tolerate it, right? The way it is, will it sustain me? Do I want to continue it? Yeah, if I'm paying everything.
I like that you specify the way it is, because so often I'm like, but if this thing could possibly change, or like I could fix this, or maybe I could work on this and make it better, or like maybe someday it'll just miraculously go away, and I keep having all these like what ifs in my mind that never actually end up happening, and so I'm just like stuck in a cycle of saying what if when it's not productive and it's not really doing anything for me.
So I'm glad you brought that up. And let me take a drink real quick. The reason why I put that in there, and it's important, is because let's say you say no to two those things, and you say yes to two of those things. That really means you're wasting your time, right? But if it comes down to the questions when it says the way it is, it doesn't mean you dump the decision. It means what has to change. What do you have to advocate for or ask for it to be that you meet your need? Because it's not a black and white thing where it's like, I got 2 no's, dump it.
Yeah.
Nah, the way it is. So what needs to change for me to actually be happy with it, or feel satisfied, or feel fulfilled? That's where I have to advocate. Because if I don't advocate, I lose my voice or my choice. I'm not appreciated. I'm not valued, because I'm not, my opinion doesn't matter. My request doesn't matter, right? It tells you whether or not you're valued at a place. And let's say you ask, the worst thing they could say is no. Well, you're going to leave anyways. But they say yes, it shows you that you're worth investing in, that you're valued, right? Underneath all of this, underneath the purpose, the reasons, and the 4 quests, every person wants 2 things innately: to feel significant and to belong. When you're valued, you feel significant. When you're valued, you feel like you belong. When you're appreciated, those things happen, right? When you're good at something and you're appreciated for it, you feel valued, you feel significant. Even if you're replaceable, at least they appreciate it. And you see your value because now you take your skills somewhere else. You no longer doubt yourself. You no longer question yourself. You know what is it you can do and where you need to be. You mentioned earlier, like, this whole work culture, and that's another fallacy that we fall into, that we're human doings. We're human doings, not human beings. Right? We have to come back to the humanity of being a human, and then aligning with the things that align with our work, align with our purpose, align with things that matter to us. Then you're going to jump in fully. This is why nonprofits can sustain their workforce on low pay. It meets some need or a bunch of needs for people, and they feel fulfilled in it. And they're willing to tolerate suffering for it. That is passion, right? Can you think of any examples where, these 4 questions be helpful for you now? I know it's a tough one. I put you on the spot.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, it's being recorded. I don't want to talk about a relationship. I don't want to talk about my significant other or my boss right now.
I guess I can speak a little. For me, the first thing that came to mind was the esports club. So I'm the president of the esports club here at Ohlone, and in high school I founded it. And to me, those first 3 questions are kind of, like interlinked, like what does it achieve for you? What value does it have? Does it make you feel happy and fulfilled? And I'd say that, what it achieves and the value it has is that it does make me happy and fulfilled. Recently, one of the students in our Discord was like, hey, thank you guys so much. I recently got affiliate on Twitch, and for those of you who don't know, there are certain benchmarks you have to reach to kind of go up in the ladder, like affiliate partner. And he was saying that he's been trying to get it for a while, and then like a week after he joined the club, like all the club members like helped him. It was like, oh, thank you. So there's that kind of like like accomplishment and like fulfillment that comes with like people telling you that, and it makes you feel like you belong, or like you have a purpose. And back in high school, there was a similar experience where This one kid, he's like, kind of like an outcast, didn't have many friends, and he's like, hey, thank you so much for hosting this, because it was through that event that we hosted that he was able to find people with similar interests and kind of have this sense of belonging at the school. And now I know that the friends he met that day, he still has and he still plays with. So I think that's something really special and something I really think about a lot.
Oh, it's huge. I did a whole 2019 panel at Twitch, TwitchCon 2019, called Find Your Quest, and it was Find Your Quest: New Ways of Building Community. This was something that streamers have held and Discord moderators have held long before the pandemic locked everyone down. Then when the pandemic locked everyone down, everyone's pivoting towards a digital realm of how do we hang out together. You're already doing it. You already had community. For people who had agoraphobia or trauma or live in rural areas that cannot get to community centers, cannot get to activities, you were it. You were the community. And everyone's like, so why do you watch people game? Why do you watch football? At least these people respond to me. Right? They respond back to me. There's community. They know my name. They know when I'm gone for a while. None of those athletes on the TV care about you. Right? There's community here. We've seen this. We've seen people hold funerals digitally for members that have passed away due to suicide or health conditions. Pandemic hit, they're like, how do we hold these memorials for folks? This community's been doing it for a long time. Join EverQuest. Go on Good Wars. You'll see. Wow. It's like... So I used to coach streamers, so it's a huge thing for me that, and I'm glad to hear it because there's another way in which we create accessibility. Like for anyone who's doing mental health or public health, this is it. If you want to explore your purpose or reason for being, how do we expand access to people? Not just expand access, but make it accessible and have access points, right? To those who otherwise don't have a way to connect with folks. This is it, right? So like I said, in this field, there's no one pathway. I'm a therapist, but I do systems therapy. There is no degree for that, right? We've created ways for philanthropy and evaluators to fund differently, saying, hey, this is what we call community-led healing. So you want an evaluation, and I'm gonna tell you, you can take that evaluation and shove it with a shundle sign. This is what the community says they want to evaluate how it's successful. So let's use their metrics. Let the community guide. Let the community lead. In fact, all the money you're going to give me, how about we take 10% for our overhead and administration operations, and 90% we put back in the community and hire them. There is no one way of going about doing things. If you see a need and you're passionate about it, run for it. Do it. Drive it. Make it. You see all these apps popping up, left and right, mental health apps, right? They're like, nothing's being done. Let's try it. If it fails, it fails. But if it works, we tried something new. And we created more access. Right? There's apps that are free. They give parenting classes. They say, if you want therapy, sign up. If not, at least you can afford this free app and learn. Where before, it's like, if you can't pay, too bad. Your kid's screwed. Am I going to teach you anything? Right? So it's whether it's Twitch, whether it's streaming, whether you build community. When you build community, the significance of people automatically comes along with it. And how do you build community? You find a need and you meet that need. And if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like a job. You put all your energy into it no matter how tired you are. And people will know that, at least to you, they're significant.
Yeah. I think having a community really does significantly change things. I know this is my first semester back on campus, and it's actually like my first semester getting like the on-campus college experience, I guess. And so like before, even though I had my passions and I had my, things that I enjoyed doing and I had a reason that I was doing school and stuff like that, everything felt so out of reach, and it felt almost like I was doing it all for nothing, partially because I didn't have a community of people behind me, so I felt like I was truly doing it alone. And then it started to feel like it had less value because it's like, why am I just doing a bunch of online classes where it's like, I already know half of this stuff and like, I'm not really getting much out of it. And then also like adding on to that, like I had like a whole crisis of like trying to figure out if I'm in the right major for me or whatever. And then it wasn't until I started doing stuff here, actually, with Step Up, that I finally decided to double major. And I think that's when, like, I had a perspective shift of, like, maybe the one thing that I thought, because I was initially a theater major, and I'm still a theater major, but that was what I thought I was just going to do for the rest of my life. Not necessarily working. I initially was like, I'm going to act. And then I had, like, a perspective shift, and I was like, well, you know, theater degrees could be good for other things. Like, I have improv skills. I have communication skills. When you're a theater major, you're almost a business major, because you literally have to put yourself out there, and you are your own personal brand. And so you're really doing all of that kind of stuff by yourself. And so, you know, I felt like I had these skills, but it's also a really hard industry to, like, put yourself into. And I just felt like, if, like, I know I'm good at this, but I don't know if I can convince other people I'm good at this. And then will I feel fulfilled if I don't successfully show someone that I am capable of this? And then I was like, because, like, I was so against having a backup plan, because that was the first thing everyone said to me. I was like, I think I want to be a theater major. And the first thing everyone says when you say you want to be a theater major is, do you have a backup? Which, as much as I understood the importance, I was one of those people that was like, you know what, just out of spite, I'm going to be just a theater major. Just to, like, keep you on your toes. Because, like, I'm tired of hearing this question, and I'm tired of people, like, basically saying they don't believe in me, essentially. And just being like, you know, you better, you know, have a backup. My dad literally told me, I hope you're prepared to be a waitress. And so, you know, you just hear these things, and you're constantly like, oh, I'm just not going to be able to do it. And then you start believing it. And so I was in a really, like, hard place. But then I think when I finally decided to add a psychology major on top of that, it added new purpose, not only to the psychology part of things, but also it added new purpose to my theater major, because it is, they kind of do have a lot of hand in hand, where they go very well together, in my opinion. And also just, like, having people skills, especially because both have a lot, they're both very social majors, I would say. You kind of have to be able to have people skills for both. And that's also something I struggle with. So it was something to give me something to work on as a person, while also fulfilling my need for, you know, something that I like to do. I love psychology, and I also love theater. It gave me a community to belong to, because I know a lot about both of those things, and so I'm able to hold up a conversation in both of those communities. Even though, you know, if you ask me now, I don't think I want to be an actor per se, but, like, I can use my theater degree in various different ways, because I've learned so many skills from that one degree. So yeah, I totally get the whole, like your degree doesn't really equal what your purpose is, even, because I don't think my purpose would be acting at this point. I prefer, like, communication more than anything. So I've literally looked into, like, I kind of want to do streaming, because you need improv skills to do that, and I can do that, or making videos, because I'm a creative person and I like that kind of stuff, because I want to interact with real humans rather than just kind of, like, acting, which is fine. It's just, like, it's not social enough for me. So I think these questions, because I already knew about Ikigai a little bit, which is great, but it also helped me to, like, think about what I was getting out of things rather than what I was contributing to things, because I was a person who was solely like, well, I know I'm good at this, so I guess I'll just do it. Or, like, people are telling me to do this, or people are telling me I'm good at this and that I'll succeed at this, so I guess I might as well do it because it seems safe.
Honestly, I love the analogy you made with, like, a theater major and a business major. Kind of how, like, you know, being a theater major, it's your own brand, right? You have to put yourself out there. And, you know, I'm a business major, and one of the reasons why I chose business was because I felt free, you know. I didn't feel limited. You know, in a sense, you know, we're multidimensional beings. Our purpose can change,
Right.
and I felt, if I didn't know what I wanted to do, or if my purpose at that moment, changes over time, being a business major helps with that because it's all about you, right? It's all about what you want to do, how you put yourself out there. So I really just love that analogy you made.
Yeah.
And y'all brought something up that was, we don't even touch upon it, and that's a whole nother podcast. It's finding your ethos, right? Because your purpose, your mission, your vision, that might change. That will change as you grow. But if you find your ethos, your ethos, this atmosphere, this air that you care about you, the thing that underlines everything you do, it doesn't matter what you do then.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a law enforcement, educator, doctor, psychologist, theater, doesn't matter. If you live your ethos, no moment is wasted, right? My ethos, finding humanity in people and dignifying, right? So seeing people's humanity and lifting it up, centering their humanity and their dignity. So it doesn't matter if I'm talking to my Taco Bell drive-through person or my store clerk, 5 minutes, or a client. If I center their humanity and their dignity, no matter what role I play, it doesn't matter. I fulfilled my purpose. I love doing it. I'm good at it. I can get paid to do it through contracts. And it's something that people need. It doesn't matter what the job is. Business, you can always find a business. Theater, improv to address anxiety is huge, right? Narrative healing, storytelling. There's a sheriff deputy that actually has a play he wrote, and it's a one-man play. He plays 7 parts by himself, and it's a narrative story that makes you see the different perspectives of law and crime to heal the relationship, right? Theater itself is healing. We know this through story. When you know my story, you cannot hate me, right?
Yeah.
So again, we have to look at these false dichotomies and these false notions that these things are all separate. It's like leadership. I invite anyone to look up different leadership modules. Transactional leadership, servant leadership, relational leadership, adaptive leadership. All leadership modules all cover the same things. They just emphasize one thing different. Transaction, or following or serving something, or the relationship. But they just emphasize one part that's different. The rest of it overlaps. It is like our degrees in our jobs. Right? Like I do theater. There's sometimes I'm sitting there and I just gotta act like nothing's fazing me as the person's talking. You hear some really egregious things or some like, whoa! And you just gotta sit there with a straight face.
Yep.
Or sometimes you emote, right? Use emotion to prescribe or to give something to react to. It's all the same. Salespeople use theater.
Everyone uses theater and they don't even realize they're doing it. But like, I don't know. The past few years, I have kind of come to terms with I'm neurodivergent. And so I am constantly masking the fact that I'm neurodivergent, which has been something that I learned about like a couple years ago. And it kind of changed my entire perspective on my entire life. Because I realized that I was kind of pretending to be someone I wasn't my entire life just to fit in with everyone else. And so part of me is like, oh, that's why I was so good at theater, because it was fulfilling a need for me. It was my survival in my brain. That was my only way to survive.
Masking.
Exactly. it was keeping me sane and also keeping everyone else around me, thinking that I was neurotypical or, whatever. And so I think that was my... When people would tell me, oh, you're so good at acting, and like, after I learned about that, I was like, yeah, I've literally been doing it my entire life. No kidding, I'm good at it, because I've had a lot of practice, whether I wanted to or not. And so, like, I think that was one of the things that was like, oh, maybe it's just, like, as far as theater, it's not something that I necessarily, like, practice. Like, I wasn't cognizant that I was practicing, but I was constantly practicing. Theater is something that is just every day for me. And so that was one reason it was easier for me, and people were like, oh, you're so good at it. And so, maybe that was one of, like, I think that it in itself could check off a box of Ikigai of it was needed for my survival as a person. And my social survival. And so that's one of the reasons I got into that. And even psychology in itself is one of my special interests. And so that is something that, like, I need as a person. That is something I hold on to. It's something I've always been passionate about. And I think it's something I'll be passionate about until probably the day that I die. And it is quite, to my detriment sometimes. I get too into that and I hyper focus on it. And so I totally get the whole passion being suffering. Like, that is something that is very real for me. And so I don't know. I find a lot of, this has been very helpful for me, I think. But also just like, I'm trying to words. Just like, yeah, I guess it's something that I haven't necessarily sat down to think about as far as my majors and where I'm going in life. It's more something that I was like, oh, this is like to think about like jobs and stuff like that. But I think now that I have had a chance to sit down and think about it in terms of what I'm doing now, I think it kind of changes a lot.
I'm glad, and it's going to be a journey. You're gonna find that you find answers, and your answers are the best wrong answers now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're kind of constantly find new answers and be like, let's change this up. This is not working anymore, and that's okay, right? As long as you explore what needs is it meeting, the why. Why are you doing it? What is it fulfilling for you? And then take your time to deconstruct what is, right? Deconstruct the system as it is, that our workforce as it is. You can dream bigger. Even the word psychology, right? You use the terms neurotypical, neurodivergent. Why is it divergent when it's now the norm?
Mm-hmm.
Right? 4 to 8 years ago, we were looking at people who have refugee and asylee status coming over here as exceptions. They're not exceptions, they're the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as long as we create exceptions, things aren't going to be sourced. So it's our chance, and I invite you all to like explore what is the need and where can you take this? Because now there's the norm, we're ill-equipped to meet the norm needs. Because we're like, hey, we waited till it's too late. Now we're going to resource the community. It's all normative. We just haven't measured it.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone wants to go out on a limb, if you have the time and the resource to do it, codify and commodify love. What does love look like? Because if you want to change the world, replicate love. How do you do that?
Mm.
How do we create that in a business? How do we get it so that everyone's doing it, right? How do we appreciate people? How do we acknowledge? These are all needs that we have. And if someone, has it that they can make the money out of it, there's a need, they're passionate about it, and they have the skill to do it, this is a huge market. But that could be anything. You don't have to solve the world's problems. Just try not to add to them. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right? So find your reason for being. Find your thing. And just be you sometimes. Right? Even on Twitch. Like, you don't have to solve people's problems. The fact that you have a space for people to come to, that's it. That is just it. Right? Escapism is huge. During the pandemic, I was in a Discord server of just physicians and healthcare providers. In that space, we just gamed and did not talk about COVID. Because they were signing death certificates. Nice. Like, hey, I'm a musculoskeletal doctor. I don't know why I'm signing death certificates now.
Mm.
Right? And I'm just like, in this space, we do not talk about COVID. Because out there, that's all we do.
Yeah.
Right? That is it. Just showing up for each other. Sometimes that is your whole reason for being.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My whole reason for being right now is showing up for my daughter. That is it. Everything else is to support her. And all the work I do is to make sure that she grows up in a world where she doesn't have to hurt the same way. That is it.
Yeah.
Right? And for people who have fur babies, same thing. Right? Climate change, anything. You can name anything. Freedom, civil rights, anything you want. If you care about it, it is a good enough reason, and find everything you do to meet that need, to address that pain. And you'll find yourself fulfilled.
Thank you so much for that. That was kind of intense, but like, it really got me thinking. Just hearing all of you guys talk about, I guess, your passions and like, which kind of leads to you guys' purpose. It really got me thinking about like, I guess, what's mine, and I don't really know how to phrase it, so I'm still thinking about it. But yeah,
I think that's a never-ending process. So, you don't have to figure it out today or tomorrow or next year or in the next decade even. I think it's constantly changing, so you'll never figure it out fully. But also just like, it's not only is it something that's always changing, you're always changing, and so your reasons for doing things will change. I think some of the core concepts will remain true, but, like, it's one of those things, I mean, it's just about everything, and nothing's really black and white, so it's always gonna shift and move, and, yeah. So it's okay if you don't have an answer today.
Yeah. I think this will be in the back of my mind the entire day, gonna be completely honest, and I'm gonna, like, go home in my bed, and, like, what I usually do is, like, I look up at the ceiling and contemplate life.
Yes.
So probably when I, like, make my time for that, I'll probably, like just bring it back in my head and, like, kind of just think about it a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the way you phrased each quest. And by any chance, could you possibly just repeat that one more time for our audience?
Yeah. So when you look at the 4 quests or side quests, right? The first one is, what does it achieve, right? What purpose or does it have for you at this moment? What does it achieve for you? What value, meaning, or importance does it have for you? The third one, the way it is, does it make you happy, or how does it make you happy or satisfy you, right? And the fourth one is, the way it is, how does it sustain you? Do you want to continue doing it, right? So you ask yourself those 4 questions for any domain or any choice you have to make in life, and really dive deep. When you start answering those questions to yourself, ask yourself why. Why is that a thing? You know, why does it have to be this way? Especially if you're asking those questions on a relationship, because, you know, it gets complicated, right? It's complex. Family relationships, romantic, intimate relationships, same thing, right? Because, you know, relationships can be the source of our pain and the source of our healing, right? And we have relationships in every aspect of our lives, whether it's school, through classmates, job, our staff, our coworkers, home, social life, and it impacts us all, right? But start somewhere. Start, you know, and if you do find the answer to what your reason for being now, you are at least 20 or 30 years ahead of everybody else.
Like you said, there's complexities in everything. And, yeah. Thank you so much, Aang, again, for your time with us.
I'm going to watch this back like 10 times.
I know.
No, definitely.
I'm going to look back at what I said, and I'm going to be like, oh, she had nothing figured out.
This was kind of like a therapy
She really
session
thought
for
she
me.
had something there.
This is only like our 3rd episode, and I feel like it's probably going to be like a favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
It's my favorite already.
Yeah.
You haven't experienced the other ones yet.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know.
It's definitely up there already. It's up there
No,
already.
you made it special for us. You being here with us.
I appreciate the kind
It
words.
achieved all the domains. Let's
Really?
just go with that.
Way to bring it back.
Yeah.
Full circle.
But yeah, thank you so much for being here.
And to end it off, here is the note to self for today. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Pablo Picasso.
That's so good.
I think this is a really unique quote, and it's something I've never heard before, but as soon as I read it, it really just resonated with me. And kind of what we talked about today. It's like everyone comes with a special gift and a special passion. And you learning how to apply that passion in your life is pretty much what purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for next time.